S.T.A.L.K.E.R is not a game that holds your hand at all. It essentially throws you right in the deep end, and although the main quest line is laid out fairly easily, there's a lot of stuff in this game that a lot of people are going to miss very early on. And so today I wanted to go over 7 things that you should absolutely be doing early on in your playthrough of S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. Now, some of these are quests or specific items you can find. Some of them are more just tips and tricks, but the first one we've got here is actually a little side mission that you can get very early on in the game, which will land you with a really nice gun as well as some extra goodies. Now, you can't miss this one as it is actually sort of part of the first mission that sends you to S.T.A.L.K.E.R, the first small settlement. It's essentially the first mission right after the tutorial section, and once you get to S.T.A.L.K.E.R, you'll need to talk to Warlock, who, if you keep talking to him, he'll actually give you a mission where he'll send you off to find a guy called S.T.A.L.K.E.R, who owes him a bit of money, and he essentially wants you to get that money back. Luckily, he does mark it on the map, and if you track it, it is very easy to find. So head on over there, and when you arrive, you will actually find a group of bandits who are already there, and they've trapped him inside and are actually threatening him because they want some loot that he had found prior to us arriving. Now, eventually the quest leads you to actually climb the water tower nearby, getting his loot and then bringing it back to those bandits. However, when you come back, if you just kill the enemies, you can just keep all of the loot, and you can also still talk to S.T.A.L.K.E.R and finish that quest line as well. He will then go and pay Warlock, and everything that you needed to do is essentially done. Meanwhile, you get to keep all of the loot that was at the top of that water tower. So this is a really good one to do early on. You get a really good AKM-74S, which has a really good long range scope on it, and it is very, very clutch, especially for this early on in the game. Now, moving on to the next tip. This is something that you should be doing from the very beginning of the game, and it's something that I actually didn't know you could do right away, and that is unloading weapons that you can find on the ground, whether that's dead enemies or whatever the case may be. Now, ammo is essentially the most important item in this entire game. If you run out of ammo, you are most likely going to get killed. Everything in this world wants to kill you, and essentially the best way to counter that is by shooting things that want to kill you. So ammo is very important. Now, like I said, there's one thing that I didn't realize that you could do. Obviously, you can loot dead enemies and stuff like that, and often they'll have a bit of ammo on them, but the actual weapon that they're using as well, that will drop to the ground separately, and you can hold the use button instead of picking that weapon up to actually unload their weapon, meaning you'll take the ammo from the magazine as well. So if they had pretty much a full magazine at the time of killing them, that's an extra 30 bullets or so that you can get back that you aren't going to find on their body. So every time you see a weapon, you should be taking the ammo from the magazine as well. This is going to lead you to getting so much more ammo, and like I said, it is probably the most important thing in this entire game. Now, something else I think you guys should be doing very early on is finding a shotgun. Now, this can be a really good shotgun, or honestly, it can just be literally any shotgun that you find. Shotguns in this game are super useful, and I think they're probably one of the more crucial weapons to own. That doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, but they are obviously very specific for close quarters, and there's going to be a lot of times when you are in a pinch in those close quarter situations. Now, like I said, you don't really need to find like the best shotgun or anything like that. Anything will do starting off, and eventually I'm sure you'll find a really good one. So just loot all the enemies and stuff like that. Look around through a bunch of stashes that you find and all those sorts of things, and I'm sure you will find a shotgun. And hey, if you can't find one, you can also get one by trading with a guy called Hamster, who's in S.T.A.L.K.E.R that I just mentioned earlier. He's actually on the map, so it's pretty much impossible to miss him. Like I said, once you've got that shotgun, make sure you're keeping a little bit of ammo on you at all times, and when you do enter those close quarters areas like tunnels and stuff like that, it is definitely a good idea to equip that shotgun, because I've actually already had multiple deaths where if I just simply had a shotgun, I'm pretty confident I wouldn't have died in that situation. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are new to the channel and you're interested in seeing more S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There is plenty more content on the way, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, the next one is actually another side mission. However, unlike the first one, this is actually possible to miss, I think. So if you guys are, 5 or so hours into this game, there's a chance this might be gone, but it's worth going back and checking because I'm actually not too sure, since I did manage to find it on the first time going through this area. Now, in that same mission that I talked about before, where it kind of sends you to meet Warlock in S.T.A.L.K.E.R, after that tutorial section, on the way there, you might stumble across these enemies here who are shooting at a house. And as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of impossible to miss them because it's just directly on the route there. But yeah, if you guys took a different direction, maybe you missed this. Like I said, it's worth checking out if they're still there. Now, if you do find these enemies, you want to take them out, and there is actually a guy inside the house. He's friends with Richter, so this guy guy is a friendly. Richter is the guy that we meet very early on in the game. And when you talk to this guy, he gives you a mission to go and find their mutual friend called Gloomy, who's not actually too far away from where this guy is located. If you accept the mission, all you need to do is just go and infiltrate this small compound. There's probably only about 5 or 6 enemies here, so it's not too difficult, but obviously in this game, like, sometimes 2 enemies can be too much for any given situation, depending on how much ammo you have and stuff like that. So definitely be safe, but you guys shouldn't find it too difficult. And once you've killed all of those enemies, you just want to head into that main building, head up the stairs, and you will find Glooming. After talking to Gloomy, obviously it'll end the actual quest itself, but he'll also point you in the direction of his stash where you can find some really handy goodies. It's essentially just a regular stash, but you can also blow up this gas tank, which will kind of unlock a little extra section to the little cave here. But just be wary that there is an anomaly in here, so it is a little bit dangerous too, but that will lead you to a little bit of extra loot as well. Now, the next thing that you guys should be doing, and honestly, this is probably one of the more important ones on this list, or not really important, but I think it's just probably the best one to do. And this is finding an artifact that's actually not too far away from that town, Z.A.L.K.E.R. Right here on the map, just over to the east of Z.A.L.K.E.R, you can see this sort of like small swamp area. It's really not too far away. It probably takes like a minute to get there, but just be wary that there is an anomaly along the way. Now, once you get there, you're going to find a massive anomaly in the middle of that little swamp area, and that is where the artifact is. So unfortunately, you do have to get close to the anomaly, and it's pretty dangerous. I actually died here doing this, but once you know what you're doing, it is pretty damn simple. All you need to do is use all of the cover that is located around the swamp. There's a couple of like trucks and there's a big rock there and stuff like that. You need to stay behind that cover, because what this anomaly does is it kind of like sucks in and brings everything in towards it. And while it's doing that, if you get caught in that sort of like contraction, you will constantly take damage, and it will deal a hell of a lot of damage. And the closer you get, it deals more damage too. So use the cover, kind of just wait until it has almost like exploded. It tends to like suck in and then it just releases everything. Once it has released everything and everything like settles down, head to the next piece of cover, and eventually you'll get close enough to this like ambulance thing here, and just to the right of that you will find the artifact, which is called the weird ball artifact, and it is very, very handy. What this does is actually causes you to take less damage from enemy bullets, which is obviously very handy. That's probably the main way that you're going to take damage in this game, and so just make sure you equip that. Once you get it, it's very easy to forget to equip the artifacts, but this one is definitely worth getting, and it's also just really cool to see as well. It's probably one of the coolest anomalies I've seen so far in the game. Now, next up we have what are called the journalist stashes, and these are locations that you can see on the map with this little icon here, and you'll be able to see these not too long after you finish the tutorial section, so it is very, very early on in the game. Now, these are really pretty simple. I don't really need to say much here. These literally just show the location of a stash, which obviously just has a bunch of goodies there, a bit of ammo and stuff like that, sometimes a weapon, as well as like a bunch of health and all those sorts of things. So if you see these on the map, definitely go and do some of them. There's some really good stuff out there, and it is a really easy way to find loot early on. Getting looted up and finding a bunch of great gear and all that sort of stuff, that is probably the most important thing early on in this game, just to get yourself set up really well. So be sure to go and do these. Some of them are a bit harder because you have to actually like get past a certain anomaly, or some of them are even locked right away, so you may have to come back a little bit later, but it is definitely worth checking out as many of these as you can. Now, last but not least, we have got one that is honestly more on the simple side, but I think a lot of people may potentially neglect this, and this tip is to just simply explore the world. I know a lot of people are going to want to sort of beeline the main story, and hey, if that's how you want to play, I'm not going to tell you otherwise. Everyone should be able to play how they want, but honestly, I would recommend to just sometimes put the main story down, even putting side quests down and stuff like that, and just wander out into the wilderness. You're going to find some really cool stuff. Don't get me wrong, it may get difficult at times. There's a lot of stuff out there that wants to kill you, but it can also result in not only some really cool loot and stuff that is useful, but sometimes you're just going to find stuff that is just really cool to look at and makes you feel kind of immersed in the world. So that is my final tip. Honestly, just get lost in the world. I think that is the best way to play games like this. Like I said, if you prefer beelining the main story, who am I to say don't do that? Play the game how you want, but I definitely recommend at least trying to just get out there and explore, because to me personally, that is where most of the fun is when it comes to these sorts of games. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. I'm also keen to hear what you guys think, if you found anything really cool early on that you think other people should be doing. So be sure to leave a comment down below. That might help a bunch of people out even more, and I'm keen to see what all of you guys come up with. But that is going to do it for this one. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.